Hello all, I'm F. Merlin Rodrigues and I welcome you back to the part 4 of our chapter, Elements of Writing. In the previous class, we learned about what is rhetoric. It is an art of communication, and we also started analyzing the different rhetorical modes. We learned narration, description, and illustration. Narration, there are two types of narration, fictional and non-fictional way of narrating an event. Description means describing place, people, or things, and illustration is illustrating with examples. Now, in this lesson, we are going to learn the next rhetorical mode, argumentation. Argumentative writing is also called as persuasive writing. The meaning of the word persuasive is to effectively convince the readers. In argumentative writing, you give opinions and views in a convincing manner so that your points, the points you're stating, is acceptable for the readers or the listeners. Now, take a look at the following sentences. I want you to identify what type of rhetorical mode would you use to explain or to brief the statements. The first time I flew in a plane. Probably you would be using the narration, the rhetorical mode narration to narrate this event, right? Now here, how to become a music teacher, the second statement. You're going to illustrate with examples. Now the next statement, use of animals for medical research. This topic gives us space to speak on both the sides, whether you can support the statement or you can oppose the statement. Yes, you can use animals for medical research or no. So these kinds of statements are called debatable statements. An argumentative essay can be written only on such kind of debatable statements. The debatable statement can be classified into two, premises and conclusion. A premises is a statement in an argument that provides reason or support for the conclusion. There can be one or many premises in a single argument. A conclusion is a statement in an argument that indicates of what the arguer is trying to convince the reader or listener. Let me explain with this topic. Now take this topic, cell phones should not be allowed in classrooms. If I give you this debatable statement, you can choose either to speak for the topic or against it, right? Now, if you're speaking for the topic, cell phones should not be allowed in classroom. You will give out the points like this. Cell phones could distract the students from learning in class. They would be distracted sending messages or playing games. Cell phone ringings might disturb the teacher, or students using cell phones can probably cheat in their tests. These are some of the points that you give to come to your conclusion or to your statement saying that cell phone should not be used in the classroom. Those points that you said, that is first point, that is cell phones can disturb or distract student by making them sending messages or games or disturbing the teacher. Those points are called the premises. Those statements are called the premises. So those statements lead or provide support for your conclusion. The conclusion here is cell phone should not be allowed in classroom. You understood? So a premises statement, there will be more than one or two premises statement that you can use, which will provide reason or support your conclusion. If you're speaking against the topic, for this topic, if you're going to speak against the topic, you will use premises statement like this, saying the cell phones can easily be turned off and kept out of sight so that it's not a disturbance in the classroom. If there is an emergency, we can use in the classrooms. If there's emergency to call someone or emergency to do. Nowadays, the cell phones are good as they could be used as a material for study. Teachers can share the materials. Okay, so you can etc. You can give a lot of premises to this. Um, your conclusion statement that is asking uh, or speaking against the topic. So, a premises is a statement in an argument that provides reason to support the conclusion. There will be premises, there will be more than one or two premises that will lead to the conclusion. So, remember, children, we write argumentative essays on debatable statement, and we'll have a premises and conclusion in a debatable statement. Now, let's move on to the features of argumentative writing. While you have decided to write an argumentative essay, first of all, you will choose a topic which is a debatable statement, and then you will take a position. You will speak either for the topic or against the topic. Pro and cons you will analyze, and then gather evidence for the stand you are speaking for. Then you will present the argument logically in a way that would convince the listeners or readers. The last very important point is to provide counter arguments. To convince the audience, your essay must be balanced. It must include your viewpoints and the opposing viewpoints or the counter arguments. Even though you are arguing only one side of an issue, you must think about what the other side would say about your opinion. After you give the counter argument, you must refute it by showing that it is wrong. If your essay is balanced, a reader is more likely to agree with you. Hope you understood how to write an argumentative essay. Now let's move on to the next topic, how to write a compare and contrast essay. It may not be completely wrong to say that it is a human tendency to look for similarities and differences. Sometimes, while writing an academic paper, you may be required to find out similarities and differences between two subjects. The rhetorical mode that comes to your rescue during such situation is compare and contrast. A compare and contrast essay may examine two subjects by either comparing them, contrasting them, or both. Depending on your assignment, you may either write a full-length compare and contrast essay or integrated compare and contrast essay, which follows another rhetorical mode. Comparative contrastive analysis can be done in two different ways. The first method is discussing the similarities in one part of the essay, and in the next part, we'll discuss the differences. The second method is identifying the points to be compared and contrasted and analyze each point with reference to the items compared. The first method consists of 4 sessions. First one is introduction. Here, you can use the opening paragraph to present the thesis statement and to introduce the items compared. And you need to give hints on the chief differences and similarities found out between the two items compared. The second session is comparison. Here you will have a body paragraph where the similarities of the two items under comparison are presented. The number of paragraphs that you're going to add in this comparison session can be decided based on the major aspects. Moving on to the next section is the contrast, where you discuss major differences. Again here, as in comparison, the number of paragraphs is decided based on the points. Next, the last one is the conclusion. Here you give the brief summary of the similarities and differences, and we also restate the thesis statement. The structure of the second type of compare and contrast essay is as follows. The first section is introduction again, where you will present the thesis statement and list the major points to be discussed in comparison and contrast between the subjects or items selected. And in the first body paragraph, we'll discuss the first point, that is either compare or contrast. And the second paragraph, the next second point is discussed. And we'll keep adding the paragraphs according to the points that we are intending to discuss. Students, do you remember the first introduction video that I gave based on this chapter? There I gave you an example on compare and contrast. It was between the comparing and contrast between the dog and the cat, pets. So the first point was to discuss based on their accommodation, based on the food preferences. The second point was based on the food preferences. And the third point based on their taking care when they are when the owners are leaving. So the first paragraph in that compare and contrast was based on one point. They discussed one discussion and gave supporting points. And in the second paragraph, another compare and contrast point is given there. And third paragraph, another point was discussed. So the number of body paragraphs depend on the number of points that are going to be discussed, either compare and contrasted. Then the last one is the conclusion part, where the summaries are given here, and again the thesis statement is restated. Here we have certain words or phrases that you can use while you are writing an compare and contrast essay. If you want to show comparison, you can use words or phrases like as these, also, as well as, both, comparatively, in the same way, in addition, just as, like, most important, similarly, the same as to. Or you can also add contrast words, although, besides, but, compared with, conversely, differ, even though, furthermore, however, in contrast to, instead. So today we learned the two rhetorical modes, argumentation and compare and contrast. Hope you understood the lesson. So we'll see in the next class with the rest of the rhetorical modes. Thank you, children.